Hello, everyone. I'm Tony.
And I'm Alex.
And we're Inside Information. Today, we'll be discussing The Prince of Egypt, made in 1998. Tell me about it, Alex.
All right, so The Prince of Egypt, made in 1998. You know, it was published by DreamWorks on December 16th, if I remember correctly, of 1998. Mm-hmm. It had a budget of 70 million and made around 215.
It's a good profit.
It's a really good profit for such a movie. And, you know, I didn't know this before, but it actually has a surprisingly really filled cast.
Yeah.
With like a bunch of different stars.
Oh, that's cool.
Like Sandra Bullock, Michelle Pfeiffer, I remember, is in there. Val Kilmer,
I like
Ralph Fiennes. Steve Martin, who's actually from the Pink Panther.
Steve Martin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Patrick Stewart, Jeff Goldblum, and Danny Glover, too.
So just a big name cast.
Has a bunch of big names. I think they wasted the majority of the budget on the cast.
I think you're right. Yeah, I thought this movie was made in 1999 for some reason.
No, it's not. Oh, and also a little fun fact about this. There were 3 directors in this film, and one of the directors was Simon Wells, who's actually the grandson of H.G. Wells.
Right? Yeah, I like his work. Like the Time Machine and stuff.
Yeah, H.G. Wells.
He was a good author. And it's really nice that, you know, this movie was made, because I personally, it's one of my favorite Christian movies, and in my opinion, it's pretty biblically accurate. Mm-hmm. But let's get into certain topics, such as...
I'm going to ask you the
first
question.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
All right. What did the beginning of the film make you feel?
The beginning of the film basically involved a bunch of slaves working very hard labor, such as stepping into sand and water and other stuff to make cement, and carrying large sacks and building large structures, but they're getting whipped. And that was very saddening, because that actually happened. Yeah. And it's kind of a glimpse that you see how people were treated in those times, and that made me, you know, it kind of sucks. But the song at the beginning was also really nice. The soundtrack in this movie was incredible. I really liked it. But what do you think?
I mean, I thought it was. It was a great first impression of what the film wanted to do. In the whole hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think the director really did a good job there.
I think it did it justice.
Appeal to the emotions of the people, show them how they were being, you know, mistreated, and it really did work, because then after that, not only in the Bible but also in the movie, it goes to the infanticide. Yeah. Where Pharaoh was killing all the
baby born, the newborns. No, not the newborns, but the baby boys.
The baby boys, because he was scared that there were way too many and they would overpopulate
and overtake his throne. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
that was nice. That was a nice touch that they did, because in the book of Exodus, the same thing happened, and I'd like to stress that on the accuracy on a lot of the parts of the film, such as that one, and that's what led Moses to find, he flowed down the river in a basket, and he was found by I forgot her name, but it was a lady that was the wife of the Pharaoh, and so I thought that was cool, because that actually happened in the Bible.
Yeah.
And the infant side, as one would call it, it was very sad as well, because that actually happened.
It was a very saddening event.
And it was I can't believe people actually did things like that back then. Mm-hmm. So that was also saddening. But that sucked. And what do you think about Moses being put in a basket down a river?
I mean, honestly, if that was my child, I don't know if I might seem a bit selfish here, but I might have run away with him. Yeah. But if I knew there was a better chance of him surviving from the basket, but I don't know, it just seems way too risky for me. Mm-hmm. And as you see in the film, it is pretty risky, in fact. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, but it seems way too risky for him to do that, and it was really God's hand protecting him there. Yes. The reason why Moses didn't get, eaten or
alligators or crocodiles or drowned. So, that was nice.
Yeah.
But God was guiding him, of course, and
the princess picked him up after.
Yes, and then after that, it transitions him into adulthood, essentially. Yeah. And he's riding carriages with the Ramses, but around the the city or the kingdom and destroying everything like that's in its path, and which caused the Pharaoh to get upset at Ramses but not Moses, which is interesting, but it makes sense because Ramses is the next one to take the throne, so it makes sense that he'd be harsh on him than Moses.
Yeah.
But I think also Moses deserves some punishment, which he didn't seem to get any, so that's probably why he is the way he is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. And also, I don't remember reading specifically in the Bible, but I don't think they mentioned Ramses as the king.
Yeah, I don't think they
did
did.
it historically because they estimated the year, and they would say that Ramses would be the king if in the story of the Bible.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting, but of course I don't think it's 100% accurate, that part. But I think
But I like that they at least put a name to him.
they attempted,
and like a historical name, not just a random name.
Yeah, not a
just
random
give him
person. Yeah,
a random person. And so later on in the film, they also add Zipporah. I don't know how to pronounce
Zipporah.
her name.
Yeah,
I think it's Zipporah. And they say that she's gonna be Ramses' wife.
Oh no. Yeah, that was the case. She was the desert flower, and she was brought to Ramses, but then she was like, you know, biting and stuff and fighting back, so she was arrested. And then Moses let her escape after she took a camel for whatever reason. I'm not entirely sure. But that was nice of him.
Yeah.
And then he tried chasing after her, but then he found his siblings that were older. And that was interesting because they thought he had returned to liberate them from slavery. But he was just there, like, what are you talking about? I have no idea who you are. And then his sister told him about how Pharaoh, which is supposedly his father, he told him to go ask him about how he got to where he is. And then he went back to the temple and he found a bunch of hieroglyphics of of the Pharaoh killing all the babies. And that's how he discovered the truth.
Yeah. That I don't agree with.
Oh,
like I mean, it wasn't biblically accurate, that part. He didn't let Zipporah escape and he ran after her.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they should have included that part, but I mean, it does make sense for the movie part, not really the movie aspect, not really the sticking to the script aspect.
Yeah.
So I guess it was a good addition so that people understood it better, but it wasn't exactly real.
Yeah, exactly. But they had to progress the story in some way that wouldn't be, I guess you could say, boring or a bit tedious. So I kind of understand by their point of view why they do that, and I'm okay with that, but because it tells like the main story. And so then Moses left like the kingdom because he was upset, or was that later on?
No, that was
eventually he did that.
No, that was after
he murdered. Yes, he murdered.
He accidentally murdered a guard.
Yeah,
when
guard.
they were trying to attack a Hebrew slave, and so that caused him to flee the kingdom. To which Ramses actually tries to prevent him from doing.
Yeah,
so.
he begged him to stay.
He begs him to stay.
But then Moses eventually left, and he was in the middle of the desert, and he was found by a camel, and was dragged all throughout the desert with the camel, which is interesting. Yeah. And then he found Zipporah's family, and then they raised Moses. Not raised him, but like he brought him in with hospitality. Yeah, with hospitality, nurtured him back to health, and he eventually became part of the family. Mm-hmm. And then he eventually found the burning bush. That's where God spoke to him. Yeah. And that was very biblically accurate, with the same lines and everything, which I really like that part.
Yeah, definitely.
And it kind of showed how it would have been for Moses, when that happened, which I really liked.
Oh, and also Val Kilmer voiced both Moses and God in that film.
Oh, he did?
He did.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. It's so unfortunate that he lost his voice with the throat cancer he has now. It sucks, because he had such a nice voice, in my opinion.
He did.
And so then God told him what to do through the bush. And so then he had to liberate the slaves in Israel. Mm-hmm. And so then he had to go back to Ramses to retrieve the people. Yeah. Which, of course, as most people might know, that have read the Bible, he didn't exactly listen to Moses.
In the film, they make it seem as if Ramses is sort of angrier with Moses because he came back not to see him but to ask for such a thing. Yeah. So I think what the film is trying to say, that if Moses had come back to see him and then asked for this, Ramses might have done it, but not anymore since he got mad at Moses. Do you think that was well deserved? Do you think he should have been?
Yeah, Moses essentially, to Ramses' point of view, abandoned him. after they spent years growing up together. Then he comes back not to see him or not to take back his rightful place as Prince of Egypt, but to say he wants to take his people and leave and never see him again. And I would understand why he got mad at that, because that's like a stab to the heart, you know. It's like, what, really? My own brother would do that to me? And so then he got mad, and so then of course Moses sent the 10 plagues, plaguing all of Egypt.
And Ramses didn't budge at all
for
the
most
Bible
of them, yeah.
In the story. At first, I think he was a bit hesitant about it, but then he got really firm in his ways.
Yeah.
But it was until the 10th plague,
The 10th plague, killing of the firstborn.
Which killed, in turn, Ramses' child. And so, as we all know not all of us, but as we know in the story of the Bible, that actually also did happen, and Ramses then liberated the Hebrew people.
Well, Moses did. He allowed Moses to liberate.
He allowed Moses to leave, Moses to leave with them.
Yeah.
And then after they were walking, Ramses decided to change his mind, and he went after them with chariots in order to chase them and bring them back.
Yeah, exactly, which is very interesting. It's because at the moment he felt weakness and he let the slaves go, but then he chased after them to kill them
out of anger.
Maybe not at first kill them, but then he eventually said to kill them all. You know, when they got to a little later into the chase.
I would understand why, because he does relate them to the death of his infant son.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'd say that is accurate in what he would have said probably in that time.
But it's not the smartest thing, because they're the people that made his kingdom.
Yeah.
So if you kill those people, then your
have no
kingdom's
kingdom.
it's fell, which eventually did.
Yeah.
But that's mainly because Moses split the sea in half, and I thought that scene was so cool because it shows like how it might have looked, and how it rose and stuff, and how the people crossed through. I thought that was very, very cool.
That was.
And out of all the I guess you could say movies or animations I've seen of that scene, I'd say the Prince of Egypt had the best iteration, or the coolest looking iteration of that, and I really appreciated it. And they were guided through the desert with pillars of fire, which is very nice, because that's the Bible says that's how it happened. And that was cool. I liked the biblically accurate depictions.
Accuracy.
Yeah, the biblical accuracy in those scenarios.
Yeah.
And so eventually, of course, the slaves, or ex-slaves, you could say now, left the water, and the chariots all went in after them. But then God closed the sea behind the slaves, and Moses. And then they all died except Ramses, which I'm not sure if that entirely happened.
No, I think in the Bible actually Ramses died with his soldiers, because that's what it says.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it implies. Not really that Ramses survived and climbed to the shore.
Yeah, but Ramses lived in the movie, and he was on a rock, the only one alive out of all of the people that were with him, and he was crying out Moses' name at the end, and that was kind of sad, because all those years for nothing, essentially. Yeah. And so
it all ended up like that. It all crashed out, which it was saddening for it did make you feel some pity for him, but I mean he still was the villain in the film, the main antagonist.
Yes.
So I guess that
you should still feel sympathy for the man, but he kind of deserved it.
He did deserve it,
but some sort of sympathy in the sense that his brother, through his eyes, betrayed him and stole his kingdom from him. So that was very sad. But then at the end of the movie, the slaves are all walking to the promised land, and then it ends there, which is interesting, but I understand why, because this is only explained in the book of Exodus. But if you read on to Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, it shows that they were walking through the desert for 40 years due to their disobedience and complaining.
Yeah.
And so they didn't show that in the film, which
Moses
makes
himself
sense.
died in the desert. He didn't actually enter the promised land.
He was able to see the promised land right before he died, and then he died. So which kind of sucks, because he saw what he missed out on, and then he died.
Yeah,
so that made me wow, I can't believe that happened.
Wait, did he die?
Yes, he not in the movie, but in the Bible.
No, I don't know if in the Bible he died.
He did die.
Oh yes,
before he saw the promised land.
Yeah, he died, but no one knows
went to the promised land.
I'm sorry, I'm getting
confused. It's all right. And so I don't know if they should have added that in the movie, but it would have been interesting to see if they made a sequel or a part 2 to what happened after he liberated the slaves, and that would have been interesting to see. But I think it ended off on a good note, and I really appreciate the people that made this movie, the people behind it. And so I would give this movie a rating like a 9 out of 10, especially since I thought it was one of my favorite movies growing up, animated movies growing up to watch.
I'd give it an 8.5. I think it was a great film too.
Yeah, exactly. So they never made a sequel or anything, right? That you know.
No, I don't.
That was Joseph King of Dreams. I'm thinking of something else that has nothing to do with Moses. But
do you think it was well animated for a 1998 film?
I think it was one of the best animated movies of the 90s, and it still holds up very, very well today. A lot of people know the movie. A lot of people like it, and I really liked it personally as well.
I still do enjoy watching it.
Yep. Anyway, do you have anything to add to that, Alex?
No, not really.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us today on Inside Information's 13th episode. Next week we'll see you with another one. Goodbye.